So my study explores the role of played by solidarity, grassroots football in the lives and senses of belonging of people seeking asylum in Italy. And I carried out part of my research in one of the projects we have here this evening, Quadrato Meticcio from Padova. So I'm really excited to host this event for the Festival of Social Science, and I'm super happy to have here activists from two of the most interesting projects of sport popolare in Italy, the Quadrato Meticcio and Polisportiva San Precario, both from Padova. And I'm really, really grateful to Robin for being here this evening. Robin has done extensive work on intercultural integration for the Council of Europe, and has explored with the two football associations in Ireland and different Irish clubs and football against racism in Europe, how sport can build relationships across various dividing lines. I'm sure his expertise will be really helpful tonight in trying to connect specific experiences in Italy to the Irish context. I leave it to Camilla, Tommaso, Alessandro, and Caterina to give you more details on their projects and what they do. I also thank the Economic and Social Research Council and my university, the Ulster University, for making this happen. Throughout all my journey as a PhD researcher, I've been thinking about inviting some activists from Italy to come over to Ireland for a chat like this. But the cost, as you might understand, the cost and logistic have made this quite difficult. So now we are in a pretty worrying and surreal period, but on a less pessimistic note, at least we have the opportunities to come together in events like this. So this might be of little consolation, I know, but I think and I hope it will be a useful way to spend a slightly bit more than an hour of our lives in lockdown. So I'm not sure you guys in Padova how the situation is at the moment. I know that in my hometown, Livorno, there is a pretty strict lockdown, and here in Belfast, all the usual social spaces are pretty much closed. So, well, it's not like a exciting Friday night for sure. Now, before leaving the stage to the speakers, I want to quickly introduce the Sport Popolare movement. And in doing so, like give a little bit of context, a context to the work of the activists we have here tonight. To many of you that are not from Italy, the expression sport popolare may sound quite obscure, of course. So its literal translation is popular sport, but as others before me have suggested, the expression people sport might better communicate its idiomatic and as well as its idiomatic meaning, as well as the moving aim of sport popolare, which is the desire to bring back to ordinary sport back to ordinary people. In other words, to make it accessible to everybody, and in particular the most disadvantaged in society. So the popular sport or people sport projects have developed in what looks like an informal movement. They are loosely connected either by real life relationships or through weak ties developed online or at some seasonal events like the Anti-Racist World Cup in Emilia-Romagna or the No Racist Cup in Puglia. So although Sport Popolare is a diverse and fragmented movement without a written manifesto, in my opinion, we can outline three common principles or themes. So the first theme and the most distinctive trait of Sport Popolare is the principle of self-management. So these sports associations are not for profit and collectively owned. Decisions are collectively taken either through members' assembly or even sometimes through open assembly. So they have a commitment to keeping a horizontal distribution of authority, and they are self-financed, usually through supporters and followers offers, crowdfunding calls, and fundraising events and merchandising. So the latter form of obtaining funds is inspired by the do-it-yourself tradition of the Italian autonomous social centers, to which some of the projects of Calcio Popolare and Sport Popolare, are closely connected. By social centers, I mean those reappropriated public spaces, often through squatting, in which self-produced and self-managed radical social, political, and cultural activities take place. Since the late 70s and early 80s in Italy, these autonomous venues have been at the forefront of the left-leaning movement of critique of contemporary capitalism and its mechanisms of exploitation and discrimination. So the second theme is the rejection of any form of discrimination. The principle of inclusivity is a not negotiable principle of Sport Popolare. In other words, sport must be accessible to everybody. In this perspective, in the movement, the adherence to anti-racist, anti-fascist, anti-homophobic, and anti-sexist values, as well as the opposition to barriers based on class and economic means, sprawls from a zero-tolerance policy within each sport association to a more militant and politically structured and proactive attitude. The third principle involves the community integrated approach. Here, sport is mainly seen as an opportunity to create safe spaces of socialization and participation within deprived and culturally diverse neighborhoods. This repositioning of sport into the very fabric of the community has resulted in sport associations working beyond the sport activity itself and establishing or collaborating with projects in solidarity with the most marginalized in the locality. As such, Sport Popolare configures itself as a movement that through the promotion of an alternative way of thinking about sport and its organization aims to imagine an alternative urban future. So what drew my attention to this movement are essentially three things. First, with the so-called refugee crisis, the movement has increasingly become a privileged setting for civic associations and left-leaning social movements to create safe spaces of inclusion and socialization and challenge mainstream, often xenophobic narratives about immigration and policies and practices of exclusion, and provide support and advocacy and solidarity to refugees and people seeking asylum. Second, unlike many sport programs that promote or projects that promote inclusion of people from migrant backgrounds, the projects within the movement usually place their support of migrants' rights alongside other social and political struggles, like the reappropriation of public spaces within the private neighborhoods, the construction of relationships in the neighborhoods that go beyond the alienated, atomized, and commodified relations of neoliberal capitalism. And then campaigns for housing rights to stop gentrification and against struggles against sexism, homophobia, and classism. Third, I believe that there was a lack of attention to how bottom-up and mutualistic approaches to sport and social inclusion plays out with regards to people seeking asylum's sense of place and belonging in the new society. Much of the narrative focuses on migrants' need to integrate the new society, with little attention to what integration is, or whether, for instance, it refers more to assimilation rather than newcomers building sense of belonging or feeling at home in the new place. So the two projects that Tommaso and Camilla and Caterina and Alessandro are about to present this evening are positioned within this particular field. I'm sure they'll give us a detailed picture of their activities and an idea on how an approach from below to sport and inclusion may help to avoid the shortcomings that come together with a more hierarchical approach to inclusion and integration. So the program of this evening is the following. First, if everybody is okay with this, I'll give space to Alessandro and Caterina, who will show us the activities of the Polisportiva San Precario from Padova. Then I'll hand over to Camilla and Tommaso to talk about their football project, Quadrato Meticcio from Padova. And if I'm not wrong, both San Precario and Quadrato Meticcio have also brought a video to show us. And then finally, I'll pass the stage to Robin, who should put together the strings of what has just been said and highlight a couple of points in light of his work and experience in the field. Then I leave 15-20 minutes for questions. So please be aware that the only way to ask questions is through the Q&A chat that you can find at the center below in the Zoom platform. And so if Alessandro and Caterina wish, they can start their presentation.
Yes.
The evening will go ahead smoothly without any awkward technical glitch. Caterina and Alessandro are both activists in the Polisportiva San Precario. Alessandro is a basketball player, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
And Caterina, a volleyball player.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, it's correct.
So, well, folks, if you are ready, you can go ahead.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Caterina and I'm very proud to be here to speak on behalf of Polisportiva San Precario. I would like to thank Federico and all the organization to let us do it. One sec, sorry. Okay, so we are we are from Padova, as Federico said, a little city from northeast of Italy. Our motto is love sport, hate racism, fascism, and sexism. We are together since 2007, and our beliefs are that team sport naturally promote inclusion. Sorry. Team sports naturally promote inclusion, erasing all differences. I can't. They can't see the slide.
Yes, there seems to be some issue with the...
Wait, stop share. Sorry, I will try again.
Try again.
Now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So we are together since 2007, and our beliefs are that team sports especially naturally promote inclusion, erasing all differences, and that, as Federico said, inclusion is the only future for a civilized culture in a civilized country. And that supporters are as important as players in a team. Our peculiarities are that we are, our beliefs make us share an extreme heterogeneous kind of people share our beliefs, and we have supporters and players from 18 years old to over 60 years old, and from different social background. We are self-sustained, so we organized several events like social dinner and merchandising, and especially two festivals where we organize some tournaments, sports tournaments open to everyone, but also some cultural events like concerts and debates, cultural debates, and book presentation. We are all this work is all volunteer based, and there is an horizontal organization. So as Federico said before, everyone except the president, that is here. There is a picture of him, but you can't see it, sorry. So all the decisions are taken together, and so all the responsibility are shared. We use all the decisions are taken with open meeting and collectively. So polisportiva means many sports, and here we have 5 different sports: volleyball, touch rugby, soccer 11, futsal, and basket. And as you can imagine, 5 sports bring many supporters that make the San Precario the reality as it is. So there is a soccer 11 that is the original one, let's say, the first team, and and then more recently we were able to make alive the soccer 11 juniores with under 13 years old children, and in the futsal that play inside, I guess. Yes, I think so. We were a lot of different people, and many refugees also plays. And we have 2 mixed sex team. There is the football, where I play on, and the touch rugby, that is a very growing and kind of new sport in Italy, but it's very fun to play. And then there is the basketball, and here I pass the ball to Alessandro. Thank you.
Thank you, Caterina. So yeah, I'll start sharing my screen. Here we are, okay. So yeah, the basketball team was founded in 2013, and it was at the beginning only amateur, and we won in a championship. But then in 2018, we decided to move to the higher end competition, to, let's say, the entry level tournament of the Italian Federation of Basketball. And we also are a really heterogeneous team, because we have players for about 30 years old till the new entries for the first years of university, so around 19, 20. But aside from the consideration about the sport teams, which are, of course, the founding part of Polisportiva, we have been running several campaigns, and these are probably the highest and the biggest achievements we have made during the years. In 2017, the We Want to Play campaign was built, and was really, really important and a great achievement for us. We have been able to change a rule from the Italian Football Federation that was not allowing refugees or other foreign non-European players to be registered and to play in the local championships, due to several reasons, like residency or other legal documents that, especially for asylum seekers, are really hard to obtain. This was a really good campaign. We have been able to share it with several actors. Also, Quadrato was in, and other associations around Italy. And after a long discussion with the leadership of the Italian Football Federation, we have been able to change this rule, and now the refugees are allowed to play. Then, the year after, the Spazio allo Sport campaign was built, and now it's becoming really important, probably starting from next year, because we just won a European project in participation with the University of Padua, and we will be mapping the abandoned or sports areas around Padua and its surroundings. And at that time, we took the stage, and we went there to try to rebuild these areas, to clean them, to cut the grass and make them available for the population again. And now this project has the same aim, and it's shared with the University of Padua and other actors too. Same Sports, Same Rights is an ongoing campaign which aims to change another law that in Italy doesn't allow a female sport to be considered as professional. And this is a huge thing, a huge problem we are not being able to overcome. And this because, all female sports are not considered professionals, and due to this, the sport teams are not granting equal contract to players, and they are considered exactly amateurs, also the ones playing in the international competitions. And of course, this is really a huge burden. Here we are, some images from all our campaigns and all the people that shared our beliefs. And even during the pandemic, and along with other associations, we have worked together, and we have been able to work with other associations in Padua to help people in need, to share food and all the necessary goods that people were requesting, because of course many people were not having an income, and they had to rely to some sort of sustain provided by by other association, also the municipality of Padua and other organizations. Then, well, yeah, we have been running several projects, and I'm really glad of especially a couple of them, the Inspired for All one and the Wins. The Inspired for All started in March 2019 and ended last December, and the aim was to run integration for refugees through sport. And you will see some of the images of the project in the video I will share at the end. And it has been developed in 3 different sports: football, basketball, and a sort of what we called a sport jam session, which was a sort of fitness mixed with basics of other sport practiced by Polisportiva, like basic fundamentals of volleyball, of touch rugby, and so on. Then the WINS project, which is still ongoing, started also in March 2019, and it's ongoing till June 2021. And its aim is to build a football female team, participated both by refugees and asylum seekers, along with locals. We have been able to recruit several people, but unfortunately the project started just with the pandemic. So right now it's quite in a struggle. Okay, so that's the end of my talk, and I'll start the video.
the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver sound of the land. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blow. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never you'll never alone. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never
Thank you. That's it. So I don't know, Federico, if you want to go with the questions now, or
Thanks very much, Alessandro, and thanks very much, Caterina. Well, it was a really interesting presentation. I didn't know about the project of mapping abandoned sport areas, and it's just a crucial project, really important project. And then a lovely video. Unfortunately, the first couple of minutes was not working really well, the Zoom, I guess, but a really lovely video, in particular when it shows the great heel goal of one of your mates. I don't know if the guy is with us tonight, but well, really fantastic goal. Yeah, the questions, I think we are gonna leave to the last 15-20 minutes of this session, okay, this chat. I'll hand over to Camilla and Tommaso from Quadrato Meticcio. Camilla is an educator in the project, and Tommaso is the captain, or used to be the captain, of the all-male 11-a-side team. So if you guys are ready, feel free to start whenever you want.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to everyone. I'm Camilla, and I'm an activist and a tutor and educator on our association Quadrato Meticcio in Padova. The other important thing is, for me, is that I was born in the same neighborhood where it was born also the association. So, and I'm living there also today. And so our neighborhood is called Palestro, Quartiere Palestro. And the district has workers' origins and has always been historically the red district of the city since its construction, and for this reason renamed also Chinatown. So I think in all of the parts of the world there is also Chinatown and Little Italy, I think. So this is so important that we have our Chinatown, and it was called and renamed by the inhabitants of the city of Padua. It is particular the fact that on one side of Palestro Street, there are small middle-class villas and in Art Nouveau style, so and Liberty style too. While on the other side, there are an agglomerate of low-income housing and of old and more recent types. So we can see in this slide why we call Chinatown Chinatown, also for the yellow color of the housing. And this is particular because in this neighborhood, there is a real separation between the middle class and the social class, the worker class. So during the 1920s, so in the 20s, there were also all the new immigrants. They lived in another neighborhood from Padua, so it was situated on the city center. And after during the 90s, they were really dislocate and they were destined to go to another neighborhood, and during during the 90s there were the real first immigration in Italy, from all the immigrants were from Nigeria or from Africa in general. And that's why, for example, right now we are starting with a project called Decolonize Your Eyes, because in our neighborhood, the other thing is that all the streets, they remind the name of the First World War, where we had a sort of colonialism in Africa too, so an Italian colonialism, and now we are talking about a new to decolonize our eyes, also for the new inhabitants of the neighborhood. So we are also in this area, in this place. If you look, for example, in the pictures, we have a part of our neighborhood is like a square, and that's why we recall our association Quadrato, so square, and Meticcio obviously is for our multi-ethnic nature, and so today we are active with some activities from football activities, and we have also football fields, and our association was born in 2012 from the spontaneous push of the inhabitants of the neighborhood, and because we work together to oppose the project of the city council they proposed to transform our football field in a car park, and so we the field was occupied by us and the inhabitants, and our football team was born there, and in this occasion it was a long battle against our administration, but today the field is safe, and Quadrato Meticcio is the co-manager of this company, sport company, and now we have also a project to have a new like a new management of the field. Today we have also 5 active sports projects. So one is the 11-a-side male team, one is the 5 male team, and the 5 female team. The last one is the first popular women's football team in the city, and we have also under 10 and under 8 youth team. So after our work with the sport in general, with football, we are working together also for the kids, and so we have a sort of we create a crowdfunding also to sponsor our activities for the children, for the neighborhood, and we are organized also like book presentations and other cultural events for these kids and the neighborhood in general. And the real, I hope that across our activities, like also the after schooling and projects and laboratories with the kids, are important to growing up together and for our kids in particular. So right now we are looking for also other projects, national and international projects, to support our small reality in the city. So now I think we have a short video.
Yes, it's a video about last project we had with another association in Padova, the Cooperativa Gea Padova, an Erasmus play sport, and we showed the results of this project we had, and we made with our youth teams.
Secondo me il play è praticamente gli allenamenti un po' speciali per noi, per imparare bene, l'educazione, non picchiare gli altri, non giocare bene, difendere non stare per terra, non stare sugli altri, non farsi male, non offendere la mamma, niente. Giocare correttamente vuol dire passare la palla, essere educati con gli allenatori, non essere prepotenti e essere gentili. Il calcio è fatto per educazione, collaborazione, il rispetto per gli allenatori, per i compagni di squadra, gli avversari. Mi hanno fatto imparare che non devo offendere chi è che sbaglia, al massimo incoraggio. Devo giocare e non giudicare gli altri se fanno qualcosa di sbagliato e non basta. Se qualcuno fa un fallo non si deve arrabbiare e se qualcuno sbaglia una cosa non si deve arrabbiare, però si deve imparare e devi ascoltare il mister quello che ti dicono. Quelli normali andavano male perché ci offendevamo, dicevamo parole sulla mamma, sugli altri e ogni giovedì poi facevamo lo schema, decidevamo, ognuno decideva cosa fare. Allora abbiamo imparato a non offenderci e a collaborare insieme. Poi a fare altre cose belle con i compagni, poi perché tante volte ci diciamo parolacce, poi dopo il mister ci ha spiegato, ci ha messi anche in punizione, tutta la squadra ci ha mandati a casa. Alcune volte anche il mister mi lasciava, lui quando andava a prendere delle cose mi lasciava quando stavamo facendo i tiri ha detto di controllarli. La prima persona che ero stato io e poi abbiamo fatto tutti i turni. È bello fare allenamenti, è bello passare, perché forse siamo amici. Sì, ci sono serviti, soprattutto l'ultimo che è stato molto bello e anche il penultimo è stato quello che mi è piaciuto di più e dico che Mister e Davide sono stati molto bravi ad farci allenare così molto bene. Ho imparato a giocare insieme a loro e anche giocare con una squadra e divertirmi e soprattutto ho imparato a giocare bene, a non disturbare gli altri e non rompere il gioco. 1, 2, 3, quadratore!
So I hope you have seen properly the video, and now I take the speak. I'm Tommaso. Hi everyone. I'm an activist and football player for Quadratome Teacher. And so we were saying that we see sport as a vehicle of interaction and socialization. And Quadratome Teacher comes from the spontaneous push of the neighborhood and tries to respond to the needs of this space. The youth component of the neighborhood is strongly marginalized and growing in a context of poverty, of discrimination, and institutional abandonment. Very often, the youngest boys and girls are the ones who have to take on more responsibilities into their families, because they are, of course, the ones who know better the Italian language, or because the parental presence is often absent. And all these things are reflected in their everyday life. On the one hand, in their demand for new forms of aggregation and sociality, but on the other hand, in the refusal to improve their own condition, and therefore in claim to one's identity as an immigrant, as a criminal, as a marginalized one, which goes hand in hand with a very strong rootedness and identification of young people with the neighborhood in which they grow up. And I give you an example of this that always makes me smile, and that's that some of the children in our youth teams sometimes tell us that they are very proud to be Nigerian. They don't feel Italian at all, even though they were born in Padua and they have never seen Nigeria. They have never seen the country of origin of their parents. But other times, the same children, when someone asks them about their place of origin, they don't say Nigeria, they don't say Italy, or even Padua, but they say without any hesitation that they are from the Palestro district, like as there is nothing outside the yellow blocks that we have seen before. So the results of our action sometimes could be not so evident at a first glance, but by insisting day by day with all our means at our disposal and trying to be always present in the area through the activities we promote and through the comparison with the various realities that live in the neighborhood, we somehow manage to convey the values we carry out. And with the recent lockdown last March, because of the COVID, we were forced to suspend our activities, and our presence in the neighborhood was necessarily lost. And negative results were immediately noticed. So drug dealing has taken over the streets of the neighborhood, like it was before many association and also our association took place in the neighborhood. And many families, when we had the chance to start training again after the end of the lockdown, didn't want to send their children to the football pitch because they were scared about the situation they had just lived. So more generally, we have seen a bigger sense of alienation and loss, a sort of confusion in the life of the neighborhood post-lockdown, as well as an accentuation of the dynamics of rootedness, or maybe it's better to say dynamics of radicalization that we said before. And this is even more evident in young people, and we fear that with the second wave of emergency that we are living during these days, and possible future new lockdown, the situation will only get worse. Before to continue, I want to specify, I think, that with the terms of the dynamics of rootedness that I used before, in this specific case, I mean a dangerous and generally negative behavior by the boys and girls of the neighborhood, because I mean that is how to say, it's a general sense of displacement outside the context of the neighborhood, outside their everyday life, and at the same time the inability to find a positive meaning to their own sense of belonging. In this sense, we can say that there is another kind of sense of belonging, a negative one, that doesn't allow to these guys to imagine themselves outside their small neighborhood and bring them many problems in terms of socialization. And this particular aspect is more evident in the teenagers, because they are the ones who are living worse this particular moment we are living, and they are also the most difficult range of age that we can intercept with our activities, because we don't have a youth theme for their age, but only for children. And in some way, this exceptional situation due to COVID has therefore shown us that the daily presence on the territory that we have is the only way to establish a relationship and a trust feeling with the inhabitants of the neighborhood, which however can be easily lost in a really short time. And even if there are difficulties to transmit a good sense of belonging, a correct sense of belonging to the new generation, as we have seen before, we still think that is must be a value to carry on, because a sense of belonging means for us feeling part of a community and take care of it. And this is of course the first reason, because for one Quadrato Meticcio was born, and this is again this is still the main reason because we continue to exist. And finally, before closing my speech, I would like to underline the constant self-criticism that we always take with us during our political action, our activism, and a continuous rethinking of the practices that we put in place. Because when we approach generally with marginalized people and socially excluded people, we can take a risk to transform our actions into a form of I don't know if it is the correct term in English. It's a fast speed assistance, a bad way to help people. I think it's yes, a sort of charity, you know. And this is the question that we always take with us. We always question about we always question ourselves, and that I also feel very much on a personal level. And how hard can I push these people to improve themselves with my action? And when does my action, which I consider a political action, and to be a political action and becomes charity. And but even among the doubts that arise, the work that we try to do is always the same, and this is to try through the instruments of sport to break down the barriers, the cultural barriers, the marginalization that very often jump up even within the same neighborhood. We try to fight school dropout with our after-school activities. We try to make the square alive with many events that we organize. And more generally, we try to improve and provide new impulses for reflection and sharing. And we try to open a space otherwise reclused in this neighborhood and self-closed, with a different conception of sport, of sociality, of society, of life. Okay, that's it.
Thanks very much, both of you, Camilla and Tommaso. Really insightful overview of the neighborhood and its composition, and really interesting the passage on the kids' sense of belonging to it, and also the negative side of sense of belonging that you have outlined, and that I've never really thought about that in concerning with the kids. Now, and the video is just fantastic. Like I watched a couple of times in the last week, and it's just a couple of answers are just so funny and really good work as well. Now I let Robin speak, and if you can start whenever you're ready, Robin. Okay.
Thanks very much, Fede, to take part in this. It's been a privilege to listen to these experiences from Padova, and it struck me listening to them that they were very Italian in a good sense. No other country in Europe quite experienced the same autonomous workers' movements in the late 1960s and early 1970s as Italy did. And a lot of what you've said about Sport Popolare relates to that tradition of emphasizing autonomous, bottom-up social movements and the importance that they play in a way that is just quite distinctive. And it's very important because when I was doing work for Football Against Racism in Europe back in 2008, 2009, I remember being struck by a phrase that was used by one of the activists who was involved. I think he was Austrian or Swiss. And he said there's always a problem in this activity of fighting intolerance in sport of what he called balcony speeches, like speeches from a balcony. And what he was getting at was that it's all too easy for sports federations to agree official policies of being opposed to racism and xenophobia and sexism and homophobia. And on paper, it looks fine. And maybe now and again, someone makes a speech about it on a platform, and they think that's it. But of course, unless this work has real impact on the ground in a tangible way, then these words can just be balcony speeches. And I think that the way your projects are relating to that Italian tradition from the autonomous workers' movements, to show how you can do this work to challenge all forms of intolerance on the ground with practical local projects is really interesting in that regard. I'm not surprised that all of you have mentioned the phrase sense of belonging. Over and over again in the work that I've done with the Council of Europe on intercultural integration, and particularly with the Intercultural Cities Network, of which there are many Italian cities who are members, led by Reggio Emilia. In all of that work, that phrase, a sense of belonging, has kept coming up as something that makes a real difference to individuals from migrant or refugee backgrounds. If they feel they can enjoy a sense of belonging in the positive way that you've talked about, then that makes a huge difference to how they see the situation, how they feel about who they are, where they are, and the future prospects that they have. And obviously, the kind of projects that you're involved in promoting inclusion and integration on the ground. For example, in ensuring that if someone is an undocumented migrant, they can still be involved. If someone is a girl, they can still be involved. If someone is LGBT, they can still be involved. All those ways of including people in what Camilla, you called a horizontal, or Katerina, you called a horizontal organization. All those are very valuable to promote that sense of belonging that that you've talked about, which is absolutely crucial. One of the questions I can see already in the Q&A from Kieran is asking about the relevance of this for a local context here, and obviously all situations where people are involved in these struggles are different, and as you've stressed in your contributions, they're very much specific to particular places and have to be specific to particular places if they're going to really be grounded and relevant. But I think that if there's one thing I would take from everything that you've said that is relevant to here and which could correct perhaps some of our own practices, it is that emphasis on the bottom-up approach as against the hierarchical one. I think that the more that it's possible to engage people actively, and rather than simply talking down to them, and the more that you can find ways to establish projects on the ground where individuals can be part of this bottom-up approach and can gain that sense of belonging in the process. I don't think you can overestimate the importance of any of that. So one example, for example, it is a local one. One very simple example is that some years ago here, the Football Association supported the emergence of an organization called World United. And World United was set up and now as an independent existence, simply to give an opportunity for refugee and migrant footballers to play football in Northern Ireland, and to find ways, if they wanted, to play semi-professionally or to progress in the game. And it offered people pathways that they could use to find a way into the game that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And that's an example of exactly what that kind of bottom-up approach that you've talked about tonight has made possible. I could talk for half an hour about what you've said. It's all really fascinating, but I'm conscious that and we do want to allow time for other people to come into the discussion. So I'm inclined to leave it there for the moment. But thanks very much for your contributions. I find them really interesting and informative.
Thanks very much, Robin. I think this is a really useful reflection of what we have heard so far and so far this evening. So I would leave now space. Like we have already a question. I think is I guess question from Kiran, and I would was addressed to the Alessandro. I think Alessandro and Caterina, but I would extend it to Camilla and Tommaso. So would you be able to say something about the main obstacle you have faced, and how these were overcome? You can just either Alessandro or Caterina for San Precario, and either Tommaso and or Camilla for Quadrato Meticcio.
Well, thanks, Federico. The obstacles are numerous, I should say. The economic one is a great burden, and the sports areas and the gyms, it's another big issue, especially in Italy, because most of the structures are old. And in the K, we had the volleyball team playing in a gym where it was raining inside for years, and also the costs of the places where you would like to practice sport are a problem, because there are several private sports areas that, of course, are really nice and are working perfectly, and everything is okay there, but the cost of these areas, it's not possible for us. And all the other gyms are almost all school based, and especially this year with the COVID and with the pandemic, it was impossible to use them because none of the schools were allowing external actors to practice there. And indeed, all these gyms and all these sports areas are not so great. The surface many times is damaged, and yeah, as I said, for the volleyball team, it was raining inside, so that's definitely an issue.
Thanks very much, Alessandro. What about either Tommaso or Camilla?
I agree with Alessandro that economic situation is always a problem for small associations like ours, and yes, it's the only associations like us, like San Precario, during this pandemic, the period of the pandemic, are damaged 2 times because we base our existence on socialization, on aggregation. So if we can stay together, we risk to die. So the only solution that we are trying to make is to create a net of contacts with other associations. So also with San Precario, of course. And this is the only solution that sport in general should take, on my opinion. And also other problems that are the one that I talked about before, the problem of the ghetto dynamics that could grow up in our neighborhood, and the solution to fight it is stay in the neighborhood, make activities, make your place a place where you can share good good ideas, good principles, and not let the criminality take the lead.
Yeah,
Thanks very
if I
much, Tommy. Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just
Oh, you go ahead.
one thing, because with San Precario too and the other palestre popolari, in this case, Galeano and Chinatown too, we are asking right now a lockdown for the fees, for example, and open the playground in the city, because there are some spaces in Padua where we can take and recreate a new playground, open playground, because of the virus. We can create some training to maintain the distance between all the players, for example. But we can do a sort of training in open air. We can say that. So we are asking to our administration and also all the sports society to make something also for sport in general.
Okay, thanks very much, Camilla, and thanks very much, Tommaso. I will quickly reply to Kieran, who asked me, together with Robin, if there are any lesson we can take from this project in relation to the local Northern Irish context. Of course, Robin is best placed than me, and he has already like replied quite well to this question. What I can add is that the experiences, the projects we have discussed here are political projects. They see themselves as doing political action. And what I think here in Northern Ireland, the issue in Northern Ireland is that there is another factor, an added factor of diversity, which is the historical community divide. So this would make, these projects, which are, and they see themselves as political projects, make this project much more difficult, in my opinion, especially in some neighborhoods. Okay, so I will quickly, we have only 5 minutes. There are two questions. One is from Alicia, from Jaya, and she asked Robin, how do we bring our work, our grassroots sport clubs, a great work for inclusion outside the small group and the neighborhoods we work in? How do we reach the rest of society, those that are not already sensitive and aware of the importance of sport as a means to promote inclusion and a positive sense of belonging to create future sustainable societies? It is very hard to, she says, it is very hard to reach people outside our movement, I feel.
Shall I come in, Fede? Let me try and answer both of the questions from Alice or Alice and Teresa, because they're interconnected. The first thing I'd say is that while earlier I was saying that it's not enough for football or other sports federations to make balcony speeches, nevertheless, the worst thing of all is that they don't even show commitment. And in some cases, as you know, the Italian Football Federation or individuals associated with it has not even shown a commitment to anti-racism and other important aspects of equality and tolerance. So that's, first of all, is clearly one thing, is that it's important for the official sports bodies who do have a voice in the wider society to use that voice in a positive way and to stress their commitment to an inclusive, integrated sporting world. The second thing I'd say is that for those of us who are involved in this kind of activity, we have to use all the best methods of political communication. One of the quite effective things that has been done here over the period of the 21st century has been the campaign by the Football Association in Northern Ireland, that's the Irish Football Association, to address what Fede just spoke about, the history of sectarianism by which this part of Ireland is, for which this part of Ireland is so well known. And at the beginning of the millennium, the Irish Football Association established a campaign called Football for All, and which was directed against the sectarian divide in Northern Ireland. And the person who led the campaign was very committed to it morally and was a very activist kind of person. And he led the campaign very effectively. And it did really change much about football here in terms of tackling sectarianism, but also the message did get out to a wider audience. There was a recognition that this had been happening within football, and people who were outside of the game realized there had been a change. And much of it came down to simply the fact it was those 3 words. It was a simple 3-word slogan that was repeated again and again, football for all. It was on the shirts of the players. It was something that became a well-known phrase. And it was therefore possible for people who didn't have football expertise or interest to pick up on something that had happened within the sport and to recognize that it had taken place. So part of my answer, I think, to Teresa's question is simply to say we need to be smart about political communication and about getting the message across in a way that can be widely understood.
Thanks very much, Robin. I am afraid we don't have any more time. It's like 7, we're almost 7:30. So I have to, well, thank you all for all the presentations. Thanks, Robin, for your always insightful reflection and also on your answers to the questions. And thanks for everybody who attended as a public this event. I think we got quite few concepts to reflect tonight and on how you do a proper job with sport, football, and inclusion, especially in within deprived and marginalized neighborhoods as well. So thank you very much. And I had other few questions to the panelists, to the speakers, but I'm afraid it's just I can't do that. So I might ask them in private. Okay, thanks very much all, and have a really good night. It's been a really pleasure to host you for this event. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
For this
Thank
opportunity.
you.